And we're live tonight. So here we go. Thank you, JP, and good evening, and welcome to everyone watching live at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation and Broadway World. My guest tonight, Audra McDonald, is unparalleled in the scope and versatility of her talent as both a singer and an actress. She is as much at home on Broadway as she is in roles on film and television. She also maintains a major career as a concert and recording artist, regularly appearing on the great stages of the world. She is the recipient of a record-breaking 6 Tony Awards for her brilliant performances in the following shows: Carousel for Lincoln Center Theater, Masterclass, yes, clap away, go right ahead, opposite Zoe Caldwell, the musical Ragtime, A Raisin in the Sun, co-starring with Sean Diddy Combs, the Gershwins Porgy and Bess, opposite Norm Lewis, and most recently for playing Billie Holiday in Lainey Robertson's Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. On television, she is known to millions of fans for playing Dr. Naomi Bennett on the hit ABC series Private Practice. The Juilliard-trained singer and actress most recently starred on Broadway in Shuffle Along, or the making of the musical, yes, sensation of 1921 and all that followed. Audra is also the recipient of 2 Grammy Awards and an Emmy, and she was awarded the 2015 National Medal of Arts by President Obama, and named one of Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People of the Year. She will soon be seen in Disney's upcoming live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast. In addition to her offstage roles as a loving wife and mother, Audra is prominent advocate for equal rights, LGBTQ causes, and underprivileged youth. And now she has been nominated for a SAG Award for her electrifying performance as Billie Holiday in the HBO film Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. Please welcome brand new mom, Audra McDonald.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Welcome. Well, first off,
you.
congratulations, a new mom. Her daughter is upstairs. Both her daughters are here, and her mom is here. Her daughters are beautiful. And you were saying that your new daughter looks just like Zoe did, right?
I mean, yes, my older daughter, I have to get used to saying that now, is going to be 16 on Valentine's Day. And so I've got, but my little one, Sally James, looks exactly like Zoe did when she was little. So they're like twins, 16 years apart, which is kind of great, but it's wonderful too. So Zoe's an amazing big sister, and she's been helping. She's been like nanny today. So it's been amazing. Zoe and my mom, both of them, great. So.
And also congratulations on your SAG Award nomination for
Thank
Billie
you.
Holiday.
Thank you. I'm gonna be honest with you. Usually actors know when the nominations for things are coming out. And everybody's like, what were you doing that day? It's like, oh, I didn't even know it was happening, or I just took the kids to school, or I just was asleep. And no, don't believe any of that. Everybody's like, at least knows about it and is awake or is on the phone or whatever. But I swear to God, I had no clue. I didn't know any of that I didn't even know I was eligible or anything like that. When did the nominations come out? When did they come out? It was like a month ago or something?
Right.
So I must have most likely had both boobs out from nursing all night, and somebody called me and was like,
you were on mom duty.
Yeah, and with a baby, a newborn that's not sleeping, I was completely shocked. I was like, what? Okay. So anyway, I don't know what that has to do with anything.
Congratulations.
Thank you, it's an honor, it's an incredible honor.
As we get started, I have to say that your portrayal as Billie Holiday is one of the most riveting, hypnotic, and flawless performances I have ever witnessed on film.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You morphed into Billie Holiday. As you watch it on TV and you channel her soul, and I've known this woman for a long time, and you sit there and you're like, it's Billie Holiday, right?
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you.
Just brilliant.
Thank you.
So you've been on such an amazing journey with Billie Holiday and Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, first on Broadway and then filming it for HBO.
Right.
How did it all start for you? How did the play originally come to you?
It was Lonnie Price, who's a really good friend of mine, an incredible director. He was an incredible actor. Maybe you guys have seen his documentary. Oh, this is brilliant. Oh, you should. Oh, well, then of course you do. Which just, I don't know about you, but it made me weep and weep and weep. Oh, I cried. Anyway, Lonnie and I work together all the time, and we're not only really, really close friends, but we work together all the time. And he had he brought it to me. He said, I think you'd be great in this. And I said, you're out of your mind, because it's, I can't play Billie Holiday. I don't sing like Billie Holiday. I can't do it. I just didn't see it being a possibility. And that's usually when I end up saying yes to something. It really is. It's like, what's going to be the hardest thing? What's going to cause me the most stress? Where. But I know that usually there's something deep down in my gut that says you're going to learn something, and whether you fall flat on your face or soar, you're going to learn something. And for me, art and my journey as an artist, and I don't mean that in an elite way at all. I just mean it just, this is what I do, is about evolution. And so I don't want to pick the easy projects. I want to pick something that's going to challenge me so that I can be a better artist tomorrow than I am today. And that means going to uncomfortable places. And so Lonnie and I, and my agent, who has guided me for so many years, David Kolodner, also sort of said, yeah, let's see what this is. Let's try it. So, and he's one of the wisest men I know, and and so they encouraged me to do it. So we did a couple of really quiet workshops. I didn't want anybody to know that I was working on this, because it was nobody's business, because at that point, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. So we did 2 or 3 quiet workshops over a year, and the last one, when we did a presentation for backers, and we had a wonderful producer, Jeffrey Richards. They were so supportive and just gave us the time and the space and the privacy to work, and they decided we need to have a backers audition, on the very last day of our 2nd or 3rd workshop. And as I was doing the performance, there was something in the back of my head. I was like, well, this is the last time I'm going to do this, because I just thought, oh, they're not liking this. This isn't going to happen. And immediately afterwards, they were like, yep, it's a go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And then
That's how it happened.
And like that, we were able to get this Circle in the Square. Just kind of happened magically. I mean, the whole thing kind of fell into place in a kind of surprisingly, sort of, it felt like kismet, And then the journey started, and I got to know Billie a little more every day,
How much did you know about her when you started?
Not a lot. I knew what most people know about her. Oh, great jazz artist. Wasn't she a drug addict? And the great jazz artist, oh, she's amazing, but, terrible, sad life and a drug addict. Lady sings the blues. That's about it. And so it was a really amazing journey for me to really research her, and I did. I looked up every single clip I could find on YouTube. I read every book on her. I studied there's lots of audio recordings of her just hanging out with her band in rehearsal. And I was able, so that's listening, so you can listen to, there's lots of wonderful clips of interviews, like radio interviews that she did with people, but there's also there's great audio clips of her just hanging out with her band. So the voice she put on when she was speaking with someone, whether she was, and then the code switch to hanging out with her band, and then you can hear where they're trying to get her to try and rehearse, but she wants to tell a story and she's a little drunk. And then also, there's also lovely clips of her talking to her godson, and other wonderful clips of her just sort of musing about life. And I mean, a lot of it's very sad, but so I just, anything I could get my hands on. And then the other bit of information for me, which was very important, was anybody that's still alive that knew her, I tried to reach out to. And so there's a couple of people that I spent a lot of time with. Actually, Yolande Bevan, she took over when Annie Ross left Lambert Hendrickson Ross. Yolande took over. And she met Billie Holiday when she was very young, like 19 or 20. And Yolande became a bit of a confidant for Billie. and Billy trusted her and leaned on her quite a bit. And Yolande was there through her first marriage and her second marriage. She knew her husbands, and so Yolande had quite a bit of sort of insight into who Billie Holiday was and who she was in private and the insecurities she had, but also the loving and maternal nature that Billie Holiday possessed that nobody really knows about, because she was so maligned as this, messed up drug addict who had this incredible talent. And so the day that Billie started to really come to me was the day that Yolande came in and spoke to us in one of our workshops. She just came in and told us her stories. And when she left, I turned to Lonnie and to Lainey Robertson, incredible playwright. And we all the hair was standing up on the back of on our arms and the back of our necks. And we said, don't you feel like Billie just came in the room with Yolande? It was the most amazing, because we just, all this, I'm getting a little emotional talking about it. This could also be postpartum hormones. But when Yolande left, that was the first time I thought, maybe I can get to who this woman is, because I felt like she rode in with the energy. Sure. She came in with Yolande. And Yolande was there throughout our rehearsals and would come in, and then also opening night, and gave me her blessing and whatnot. But then as the show was going on, people would come, like Robert Wagner came to the show and he said, I knew her. And let me tell you, lots of people, there was a jazz photographer who just passed away yesterday. What's his, he just, African-American man, he just passed away yesterday. Herbert, I can't think of his name.
Someone Google.
Yeah, but he came to see the show, and he's like, yeah, that's who she was. Oh. That's right. And then there was a young woman who came in, not young, she was an older woman, but she said when she was younger, her dad had a jazz club, and in Billie's last year of life, when Billie was trying to get any gig she could, she came out to this club, her dad's club. And so she was charged with picking up Billie from the hotel and taking her to the club. And Billie wanted some liquor. So they had to bring her some liquor, and she finished it by the time they got to the club. So as the show would go on, people would come in, bring Billie in with their little stories backstage. And so I took all of those as just gifts. And anything anybody could tell me about her, I wanted to know, It
was like honing.
Yeah, and with all of that, I put together who I thought she was, and just hoped that I came as close to her as I possibly could. But for me, it was about researching every little aspect of her that I could find.
What unlocked her vocally for you? Because your voices are so different.
Yeah, my grandmother.
Really?
Yes, my grandmother, my dad's mom, who passed away in 2006. I used to imitate her growing up, because she was a gregarious, wonderful lady who made friends with everybody she met. She had 8 kids, and I don't know how many thousands of grandchildren there are. There's a billion of us. No, it's about 20 of us. But anyway, and I loved her. She was just this great lady. And she was born around the same time as Billie Holiday, and my grandmother was originally from the South. And my grandmother, she would say things like, Audra, get your feet off the Chesterfield. Or Audra, what's it? And so I used to imitate her to her. I'd imitate Nana to her face. And so, sometimes she'd like it, and other times I'd get a little hip. That's okay. But anyway, so in listening to Billie Holiday, and listening especially when she was just, she had her guard down with her band especially, and listening to all those recordings, I thought, she sounds like Nana.
Yeah.
When she talks. Slightly different, but that was my way in. So I said, if I go from what I know Nana's voice to be, I think I can get to Billie. And it was still work. Every night before the show, I would listen to her and listen to her. I'd have my earphones on and listen to her up until curtain.
Yeah.
Just to make sure she was there. And then before I go on stage, just ask her to be there with me if she could,
Because the performance of Lady Day takes place at the end of her life.
Very end of her life. A couple months before she passed away. And it's based, Lonnie was the director, and Lainey is the playwright. But Lainey had a boyfriend who attended a concert of Billie Holiday's. It's a, knockdown club in Philadelphia. And he said there was maybe 8 or 9 people in the audience. She was really kind of drunk and out of it, kind of stumbled on stage, sang a couple of songs, wasn't really kind of talk, but wasn't really coherent, and then just left. And he said it stuck with him so much. He told, Lainey's boyfriend told Lainey about it, and Lainey lived with it for a while, and then one night he just couldn't get it out of his head, so he got up, went to his typewriter, stood up, and kind of, it just flowed out of him based on that. So it's based on, truthful events. Yeah.
It starts in such a vulnerable place, the play and the movie. So what was your nightly preparation like to get into that mindset of Billie each night and for the filming?
Yeah. Like I said, listening to her, I'm someone who, when I am, even if I'm doing concerts or something like that, and this is where I did understand Billie, especially when it's just you up there, you don't have a role you're playing, it's just you. That takes, playing a role, of course, takes a lot out of you, but when you just have to go out and present yourself, there's such a vulnerability to that, and not even a character you can hide behind. So that when I'm getting ready to go out and do this is a little roundabout way of getting to the answer. Going to do my concerts, I'm very quiet before I go on stage. A lot of people, like people close to me who maybe if they happen to be backstage before I go on, they think I'm mad at them because I get very I kind of go in. And I think it's because I know I'm about to vomit up so much. It's like conserving, or protecting myself. I don't know what it is, or it's a meditation of some sort. And it's just how I've always been. And so to prepare for Billie, of course, went in, knowing that, that was necessary, especially because it's an hour and 45 minutes, no break, it's just you up there. I would listen to Billie, like I said, with the earphones. I would try and warm up in a way that I thought Billie Holiday would have warmed up, and I even had a little bit of background on that. Another person I spoke to who had information about Billie Holiday was Maya Angelou. A mutual friend of ours was able to put us together so that I could speak to Maya and ask about her experiences with Billie. And that was like, gosh, talking to Maya Angelou was like connecting with the mothership, It's just, you go away and you're just vibrating. So and she had beautiful stories. And one thing she told me about her, she's like, Billie, people don't know this, but Billie Holiday had a technique. She knew how to sing. She knew how to place her voice. And the reason that Dr. Angelou, I'm sorry, Dr. Angelou, she's Dr. Angelou. The reason that she knew that is because she met her through their mutual voice teacher, someone who coached them both. And that's how they got connected. Anyway, so I warmed up in the way that I thought Billie would warm up. And then I also warmed up to protect my own voice. Yeah. And then the last thing, I wore Billie's cologne that she wore, tweed, I think it was called. There's a story of one of her friends going, "Damn, Billie, you got so much tweed on. What's wrong with you?" She's like, "Yeah, that's my scent." And she loved gin. So I had a huge bottle of gin in my dressing. No, I didn't know. Not that. No way I could have gotten through the show. Yeah. Although I did experiment and at home in the comfort and safety of my own home, I did, drink like a couple of shots of gin and then try and say the show and do the show, and it was difficult. But I would take the gin and I would put some on my tongue, behind my ears, and up here so I could smell it, so I could smell of it and smell it, just to have that. Just so I make sure I'd had her sort of where she was, her sensorily speaking. That's not a word.
Oh, it's a good word.
It's a bigly word. I made a bigly word there.
It's an Audra word. But just mentally prepping, because it starts on such a vulnerable level.
It does. That was the quiet. Yeah. I had to go to a quiet place. Also, Billie was very lonely when she died. Very, very lonely, very poor, very lonely, and very sick. Yeah. So I just sort of that's why, for me, it was the quiet. I also couldn't, in my mind, think about the end of the play.
Yeah.
In my prep, because if you think about the end, especially with Billy's story, you're not going to want to get out on the stage, and I had, you know, had to get out there.
Yeah.
And for me, my other thought was always, Billy had to live this. If I, you know, her whole life was this. If I can survive an hour and 45 minutes, she had to live it, you know, for 44 years. I can survive, you know, an hour and 45 minutes of it, so.
How different was it for you from doing it on stage to filming it for HBO?
You know, it was very different. We filmed it down in New Orleans, which was wonderful, and we were only there for 4 days. I gained a pound a day. Thank you, New Orleans, for your incredible food. But that's okay. That's what you're supposed to do, right? That's what I did. We filmed in the Cafe Brazil, which was, you know, they were able to sort of build it up to look like our stage. And Lonnie did everything he could to make me feel like it was the stage, in that we had a live audience come in for each of the nights that we filmed it. However, there were 8, so because we wanted to do it just all the way through so I wouldn't have the choppiness, we had 8 or 9 cameras in that very tiny space. So, and while I'm used to cameras from like having done private practice and things like that, it did throw me a bit. And so for me, I don't know that I necessarily felt as deeply connected to Billy because there's no fourth wall in the play. Wait, that's right, there's no fourth wall. You know, she's speaking to the audience. So it was very difficult to have to speak to the audience and have, you know, 8 and 9 different cameras all over you and try to avoid them but stay as Billy. And then, you know, and then also Billy would get in the audience too, so I'd have to like kind of walk around cameramen to get in the audience and whatnot. So that was tricky for me. But having said that, it was, I mean, he did the best he could. Lonnie was really generous in still having a live audience for me so that I could have the experience that I was as close to what I had in the theater as possible.
It's funny that you see it that way because it's not. It's flawless. It's hypnotic. Like I said earlier, when you watch, the cameras go into you and you're her. You're totally her.
I've not seen it.
Really? Yeah, because that was a question from the audience. Did you watch Lady Day? Do you watch any of your stuff? A lot of people don't.
Yeah, or if I do, I have to be years away from it. So it's like a different person.
Okay.
But I won't watch that. Maybe when I'm, you know, when the youngest child is in college and I'm weeping that both of my children are out of the house, then I'll sit down with them.
I love it.
Pig's feet and a bottle of beer. Pardon?
That was my question. So it's not, you didn't avoid looking at it because you might do it on stage again. You just don't like that.
I just don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. She's really good. You should check it out.
It's really phenomenal. You know, I read where you said that playing Billie Holiday was one of the most challenging and artistically rewarding experiences of your career. Tell us why.
Well, I think I've explained all the reasons that it's challenging. And then to do it every night is challenging, and also to leave her at the theater.
Yeah.
And not bring her home to my family. I don't know, you ask my daughter, maybe she'll say, nah, she brought her home, but I don't think I did. And it was rewarding because it was really, I really expected to fall flat on my face.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every night before I went out on stage and I thought about those first notes that I had to sing is like, are they gonna go on this journey with me? Is Billy gonna come out of my mouth? I don't feel that you're ever done with a role. I mean, I feel like there's things about Carrie Pippridge that I'd like to go back and fix, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's certain things about the role of Billy that I'd like to go back and fix. But it was rewarding to, you know, at least accept that challenge.
Sure.
You know?
Singing those songs, what that meant to you.
An honor.
Yeah.
Who am I to be singing those songs? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So it was a total honor to sing them. And frightening, especially God Bless the Child and Strange Fruit, to sing those if they don't know any of the other songs in this show, they know those two.
Yeah.
And that's, even if they've been leading in, that's when they're like,
Wonderful.
so.
You have this incredible career, so we have about 15 minutes to go through your entire career. So we're gonna do this, here we go. And just we'll go through some of the highlights and just tell me what comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay? Let's start with your Broadway debut in the musical The Secret Garden. Favorite memory?
Favorite memory. Some of the people I'm closest to in my life, I met doing that. My fairy godfathers, Andy Gale and Bobby Wilson, I met doing that show. So that's what I think about when I think about yes.
I love it.
They're the best, so.
Carousel, winning your first Tony Award as Best Featured Actress in a Musical for playing Carrie Pippridge.
That whole production, everything about it was magical. The second best friend I ever had, who passed away 10 years ago, I met doing that show, Lavette George.
Yeah.
Great actress and singer, and was just like a sister to me. We met doing that show, but everything about it, the cast, that production, the love that was in that cast, working with Nick Heitner, working at Lincoln Center, especially after having gone to school at Juilliard across the street and kind of watched everything that would go on over in Lincoln Center, and then all of a sudden to be there a year later. I never would have imagined that in a million years. So I just think about that show and I just think it was just magic. Like that's Brigadoon to me. It's like, yeah.
It must have been amazing to have gone to Juilliard for classical, knowing you wanted to do Broadway.
Yeah.
And that was right across the street, and there you were.
Yeah.
A year later.
And when I was at Juilliard, I was so thinking I've made the wrong decision and I'm so far away from Broadway, and yet it's right there, and I'm so far away from it, and I just didn't understand at the time that that's the journey I needed to take. That journey to find my classical voice is what's been a part of the career that I've had, but at the time I didn't know it, At the time I was like, what am I doing,
Wonderful. Masterclass with Zoe Caldwell, yes. Winning your second Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a Play. I mean, it's gotta be Zoe.
What do you say? That, for me, was being on stage every night with a hurricane. Just the greatest force you can possibly imagine. And instead of, you could be on the edge of the wall of the hurricane and be swept out to sea, or you could be in the middle of the eye with her. And she's such a generous actress and person. Obviously, I named my first child after her, that she took you into the eye with her and said, let's make all this force together, you know what I mean? So I learned so much about life, and certainly about performing in theater from her.
Because before you came into town, when you were out of town, did you share a dressing room between like a half wall?
You remember that story? Yes, yes. In Plays and Players Theater in Philadelphia, teeny tiny little theater where we first started. It was tiny little dressing rooms in the basement, and they did the wall didn't even go all the way up to the ceiling, and so you'd be trying to do your thing that you could kind of hear when she'd be, Mama, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, doing her exercises, And I was just sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then one night I just kind of shouted over, Miss Caldwell, can I come in and talk to you? And that's how our friendship.
That's where it all started, right?
That's where it all started, yeah.
What is your, does your before you go on stage, do you have something like she did? What is your major warm-up? Do you have something you do in every show you do? Like vocalises like she was doing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, it's just to sort of, mine's not a mum like that.
I love that one.
Well, can't you hear her doing it? So, no, mine are more just making sure that my voice is placed in a healthy place, so that I don't, because I'm not disciplined enough to go out there and protect myself.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling it, I'm going to do it. And sometimes that can be unhealthy. So for me, it's about making sure I'm as health. I want to make sure I get this right, because my mother's backstage. If I get the grammar wrong, she's going to say something. Healthful a place as I can possibly be before I go out there, because I know I'm going to it's all going to go out the window once I hit the stage. So that's for me, that and staying quiet.
You live in everything you do. You just feel it and you put it out there to an audience. After you come off stage, do you remember what you did, or is it this beautiful thing you have with an audience and what you give out? You know where I'm going with this?
I am, but I'm laughing because no performer thinks, oh, that was a beautiful thing I had. Usually you come off, you're like, shit. Oh God, if someone was eating candy while I was out there. Or, you know. But I mean, for everybody's like that. I remember Zoe Caldwell one night during masterclass, we were doing a scene, and she says, you know, something like that to me, shout it, and she's kind of looked at me. So sing! And that wasn't the line, but I was like, okay, she's gone up. And when we went off stage, I said, what happened? She said, I was thinking that I was going to have pasta with marinara sauce that night. She's like, and then I realized I'm still on stage. And it's true. I mean, we, you know, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. I tell you what, once in a blue moon, and it's what you're chasing every time you go out there. You want to have that.
Yeah.
And some nights, the nights that it does happen, and it's very rare. I don't want to speak for everybody, but it's really rare for me. There are certain nights when you go off stage and you kind of don't remember what happened. And that's when I know, okay, we were all in the same place. But that's rare. And the thing is, what Lonnie taught me more than any, because a lot of times, even like when I was, you know, saying, Lonnie, I don't think I did very well on the film of Lady Day. I don't think I found her, and blah, blah. He said, it's not for you to feel good about. He's like, you're not going out there so that, you know, you can move yourself to tears or applaud for what you've just done. It's not about you. Yeah. He's like, you're supposed to just give it. Yeah. And I have to remind myself of that. I have to remind myself of that often.
Yeah. He's one of the smartest directors working today.
Yeah. Yes.
Ragtime, winning your 3rd Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a Musical for the role of Sarah. That was the first time you had originated a new musical, right?
Yes. Yes.
So how exciting was Ragtime in Toronto? When did you realize this was going to be something extra special?
I knew the very first workshop that I was involved, where we were sitting around a table, and everybody, it was their first time. The only person who knew any of the music was Brian Stokes Mitchell. And he had done some of the demos with Lynn Ahrens and Steve Flaherty. And so we were all just kind of reading through the script, you know, and when it came time for a song, Steve would sit down at the piano, and Lynn and Steve would sing the songs, except for Wheels of a Dream, because Stokes knew it. So when it came to Wheels of a Dream, Stokes sang it. This is burned in my brain, and I don't remember much about my life. I really don't. I'm not a drug addict or anything. I just don't remember. But this I remember. I'll remember as long as I live. He sang it, and there was huge tables, and we were all sitting in a circle on the table. He sang it, and by the time he got on the wheels of the very end of a dream, he was singing that last note. You could see tears starting to form in his eyes, and all of us we levitated. Everybody just went, ah! And we knew, and I knew then and there that was going to be a huge. That's when I knew it was going to be a hit. I didn't even have a song. I had no solo. I knew that I had to sing some of what he just sang, but it didn't matter. I knew it was going to be a huge hit. Yeah.
I have goosebumps just listening to do that little bit of it.
Yeah.
What a glorious show.
Yeah.
And a glorious cast. A Raisin in the Sun, playing Ruth Younger, winning your 4th Tony Award as Best Featured Actress in a Play. What a fabulous cast.
Oh.
And you all took Sean Diddy Combs under your wing, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, you know, I have tremendous respect for him.
Yeah.
He wanted to learn, and he was very respectful, and he worked so hard, and would rehearse. After rehearsal would be over, he'd be like, "Where are y'all going?" Like, well, the rehearsal's over. He's like, "No, look, but this," and so he'd work all night. You know, after we'd finished rehearsal, 10 to 6, he'd go home and work with his coach, and he had a replica of a set built in his apartment, and And so, that was a very close-knit cast, and, you know, led by Felicia Rashad and Kenny Leon. You know, it comes from the top, too, what kind of experience you're gonna have. And Kenny Leon said from the beginning, we're a team, man, this is a team. We're gonna do this together. And so there was no ego. And, you know, I mean, everybody in that cast deserved to have a huge ego. They could have all led a show on their own. There was no ego anywhere. We were there to serve that piece. And Sean was a very big part of that. So I have beautiful memories of that, and Sanaa, it was
I just remember how protective you all were of each other, because we were there during the rehearsal process, and I remember opening night, everybody was just, it was such a wonderful, close-knit family. Everybody connected with that show.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it stayed a family.
Yeah.
It was a very, you know, as deep as the play got, it was a very happy time backstage, too.
Sure.
Sean would get on the, you know, the paging thing and say, hey, y'all, you know, this is gonna be our best show ever. We're gonna do our best show. Everybody, we're gonna do our best show. I mean, it was incredible. Yeah, there was a lot of love.
The musical 110 in the Shade had a very special personal meaning for you, yes?
Yeah, I met someone on that show. Yeah, well, yes. I mean, 110 in the Shade was a very emotional time for me, because my dad was killed in the plane crash right before we started previews. No, we started previews, but before we opened, and so that was hard, obviously. But at the same time, I met someone who I would end up marrying some 9 years later, Will Swenson. So and now we have a baby backstage.
Beautiful. Porgy and Bess.
Yeah.
Winning your 5th Tony Award as Best Actress in a Musical, starring opposite Norm Lewis for director Diane Paulus.
Yeah.
Another glorious production.
Yeah, that was an amazing time, too. I know there was all this controversy surrounding it, but it's a role, that's one role that I always felt that I was on a collision course with. I knew that one day I would play Bess somehow, somewhere, even if it was in the basement of my house, somehow I had to play that role. But I knew I didn't want to be an opera singer. So I was wondering how I was going to play Bess. So when Diane Paulus came to me and said, this is happening, we want you to be a part of it, I jumped. I just said, well, yes. You know, of course, whatever it is. It was a challenge, though, to do that 8 times a week is a challenge. Vocally, it's not meant to be sung 8 times a week.
Yeah, because everybody who, like, I saw Clemmerdale years ago, and they all did, there were breaks, and there were 2 people playing those roles, like you do in opera.
Yeah, they did 3 to 4 shows a week.
Yeah, and you did 8.
Yeah.
And another very vulnerable, emotional role as Lady Day, where it starts, and it goes deeper and deeper.
Yeah, another one with drug problems. Yeah.
But working
poor
with
daughter.
Diane really just moved that ship along.
Yes,
really
she did,
director,
and
right?
she's very collaborative.
Yeah.
She wants to hear what you have to say, and she wants to explore what ideas you have, which is great. So you feel like you're creating it together, which is important.
Beautiful. And winning your 6th unprecedented Tony Award, of course, for Lady Day.
Which we talked about.
Yeah, but what did that... So I'm going to ask you this. Where do you put them all? Where do you have them all? Do the kids play with them?
They're kind of...
Scattered everywhere?
Yeah.
Because up there is like a playroom. It's the most adorable thing in the world. Her family is up there, the baby's up there, her daughter's up there, there's toys everywhere. So I thought, are the Tonys like play toys now at home? They're all over the house. All right. We're coming to your house.
No. Yeah, they're just sort of scattered.
Shuffle Along, or the making of the musical sensation of 1921 and
Oh,
all that followed.
followed.
Brilliant. For director George C. Wolfe and choreographer Savion Glover.
gosh.
You tap danced.
Yeah, I
Really
learned.
tap danced.
I learned.
Yeah.
I had tap danced when I was younger, but I had to learn. It's a whole new language. Learning from Savion Glover. I mean, and there was never a more patient teacher. He was another. He's kind of like Sean P. Diddy Combs in that he gets obsessed with something. So when George is like, okay, come on, we gotta, he's like, no, we're gonna work on this, So Savion would have rehearsed until midnight if you would let him. And not as a taskmaster, but just like, let's figure this out. And Savion teaches it's an old school way that he teaches, where he doesn't, you'd say, was that shuffle ball changs? He'd be like, it's So he goes, shuffle ball. He's like, no. So even like Billy Porter, we'd go to the dance camp, like, was that a shuffle?
Would it make it easier or made it harder?
You know, I understand that's how he learned, and what's
Yeah.
wonderful about it is he wants it to come from you. He doesn't
Yeah.
want it to look like something that was painted on you. He's like, you need to feel it.
Yeah.
You know, and his whole thing was, gotta get my feet together. And so he'd give classes before we'd actually start rehearsal. We'd have a whole class with him. So by the time, you know, you actually started rehearsal, you'd already lost 10 pounds, which is amazing. So then I had to go and get pregnant. And gain 50.
But you were all like tap dancing like a foot off the floor. I mean,
Yeah.
you all stopped that show every single performance. Remember the first night you were on stage and just the reaction between you and the audience?
Yeah, it was electric. It's so much fun. I had such a good time doing that show, and it was very important to bring that story to light.
Very important story.
Yeah.
You are known to millions of fans for playing Dr. Naomi Bennett on the hit ABC television series Private Practice. Private Practice fans? Favorite memories of that and working in front of the camera, did you enjoy it?
I didn't. But that's why I took the role. I was afraid of the camera. I wanted to not be afraid of the camera. And, you know, at first it was really difficult, and I think for me, you know, the thing is, I was with the most incredible cast. And once again, that's a cast could have been filled with egos, because every single one of them could have been the leader of their own show and had been the leader of their own TV show, and they were all stars in their own right. But everybody so adored working with each other, and they were, for me, they were very generous. And so I'd ask questions all the time and watch how certain people would, you know, conserve until it was time for their close-ups, or what they would do to get themselves into the moment when you're shooting a scene that's completely out of sequence with, you know, what's actually happening for the character. And so I learned a lot. But and for me, when the light finally turned on for me in my head about how not to be afraid of the camera, is I finally thought of the camera as my audience. Whereas before it was like this robot. And so I was just afraid of it, thinking I better not, and I'm not a small person, so I kept thinking there's so much of me, and so I was just so stuck. And so once I thought of it as like, no, that's just how my audience is going to, it just really took me thinking of them as an audience. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, it's not something that's gonna like shoot lasers at me. They're just not freaking lasers. They're just trying to get they want to know what's happening. They want to feel what you're feeling. And that calmed me down. So, but it took 5 years.
Yeah. No, because I always ask stage performers who started on Broadway what it was like being on a TV set, having a major role, and you're like, should I be here?
Yeah, and you do have to learn how to bring it down.
Yeah.
Because you can't go big like you do in a theater. But I learned. It took me a while, but I learned.
Because Jonathan Groff, a lot of them have said, like Ang Lee would tell him, less. And he's like, I'm not doing anything. Less. And then you realize how the camera's really picking up everything.
It picks up everything you do. And to
Because
learn
it
to
sees
trust
inside
that.
you.
And you learn to trust that. You have to learn to trust that stillness. As long as you're connected to what's going on, but trust the stillness, the camera will pick it up.
I love it.
Yeah.
We have a few questions from the audience. This is from T.C. Newman. Congratulations on baby Sarah James.
Sally, but thank you.
Oh, you have to say exactly hello, Sally James.
Thank you.
But see, Sarah could have been her name from Ragtime.
I could have named her Sarah.
What advice would you give women in the business who also have dreams of motherhood and a career?
You can do it. I'm a little angry when I say that. I don't mean to sound angry, but there's no reason that you can't. And I think as women in this business, we need to insist upon that more and more and more. But just, you can. There is a way to do it. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I think, this is, because it's just so personal, because it's happening to me right now, but you have the right to be able to do both. And I think for me, it's also important to show my daughters that I can have a career and I can be a mother. You don't have to choose one or the other. There's a way to do both. And they grow up backstage. I mean, they're with me, you know. Zoe was with me until she started, you know, school, and Sally will travel with me now, and Zoe's grown up in the theater. She knows how to be on stage. She knows how to be backstage. She's, you know, she did a little stage managing while we were doing Moon for the Misbegotten last summer. I mean, it's a great experience, and they have an incredible appreciation for the world in that respect, because they're seeing all different types of people and the diversity and teamwork and how something gets built, and that it's not just about glam, it's about everything that goes on backstage. And so it's, I think I've been very lucky, and I would say to anyone, you can do it. Don't give up one or the other, do both.
Beautiful.
If you want it.
This is an auditioning question. Auditionings can be very hard to try to nail it.
Yes.
Do you like to audition, and what is your secret to auditioning?
I do not like to audition. It's a hard nut to crack, but someone gave me some great advice once, and I try and tell this when I do master classes or whatnot to students. Go in, and instead of like, please like me, go in as the answer to their problem. Their problem is they don't have anybody to play that part yet. So you go in there and say, hey, I'm your answer. I'm here to solve your problem, A. And B, do you, baby, do you. Don't try and go in there and be like, I'm gonna be the Barbra Streisand you need. No. Or I'm gonna watch me Lady Gaga this. No. And everybody gives us advice, but it's so true. You must be uniquely you, because you're not going to be good at trying to be anybody else. You have to be you. So that's, I guess, the other bit of advice I would give. But go in the mindset, I'm going to be the answer to their problem. So.
How do you choose your projects?
If it scares me, I do it.
So many people we've had here said the same thing. They're
Really?
like, I ran from that. Or they're like, why did I say that I'm going to do a 3-hour play? And yet when they're on stage, they have the best time until the next night before they go on and say, why did I choose this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have any fun or whimsical backstage must-dos before a performance?
Oh. Well, I think I already answered. I'm the most boring person you know backstage. After the show, I'm a lot of fun, but before the show, I'm no fun. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I also want to go back for a second. You have a new Disney movie coming out.
Yes.
She's going to be in Beauty and the Beast, which I think comes out in March, right?
Yes.
Live action.
Yes.
What can you tell us?
It's amazing. Just being on that set, you know, being over in London and being on the set, just, I mean, it was stunning, you know, and you could see sort of how it was all working. And I was still blown away. And that's another one where it's a cast of thousands and a cast of 1,000 kind of amazing stars each who is a star in their own right, and everybody was just so enchanted by the whole experience that it was a joyful set. I will say this, my favorite thing that I did, because I auditioned for Beauty and the Beast when it was on Broadway, just to be in the ensemble. And I didn't get cast. I was so bummed out. So we had a dinner the night before we were filming, start to film the really big scenes, and we were there with Alan Menken. I said, hey, Alan, guess I just want to tell you a story. It's like, you guys didn't cast me to be a fork in your show. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I had, you know.
I bet you he loved it.
Joe, he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, it's all right. I'll take this instead. This is better. No, but it's fun. I mean, my part is small.
Who do you play?
I play the Garderobe. I play the Garderobe. So she's a very larger-than-life character. I will say it's not the subtlest role I've ever played. But I had a lot of fun. Stanley Tucci and I would say to each other, we're going to win Academy Awards for these performances. We are so subtle. We're brilliant. But it's beautiful. It's amazing. I've never seen anything. Once I've seen some of the finished product, and I don't know how, actually having been there, I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
It's going to be beautiful, you guys. I'm excited to see it in a big theater, but what I've seen so far is just mind-blowing.
Oh, the teasers are gorgeous. And working with Bill Condon.
Oh, Bill, it's so wonderful to work with someone from the theater and from Broadway. Just lovely. And the set, it was just, for a project as big as that was, and the set as huge as that was, he never lost his cool and just made everybody feel happy and loved, and it was beautiful.
You played the Mother Superior in front of millions of people on live television. How much fun did you have, and what was it like when they said action?
We had fun. We were scared to death. And it's a strange feeling to know that you're live and to be doing a musical, and yet when you're done with the number, it's just, you know, that was an odd sensation. So we'd finish something, you know, where you'd normally expect applause or tomatoes or something, and it was just like, okay, we're just gonna go now. But it was an incredible experience, and once again, you know, that was just filled with a lot of love and excitement about bringing this sort of this genre back to television, you know, to live television. And I love that it's taken off like it has, you know, and that it's just that different networks are getting in on the action now, and it was wonderful. I mean, it was also very odd for me to be playing Mother's. Talk about a role I never thought I'd play. You know, I mean, it's certainly, but we also did really wonderful research for it. We went to a convent, and I met with a Mother Superior there, and we spent time with a bunch of nuns, and they talked to us about their lives and their day, you know, how they, you know, what their lives were like and why they devoted themselves to the order or whatever. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. A lot of fun, but you do age a bit in that 3 hours. Yeah.
Because we had a panel here a few weeks ago from one person from each of them that had been on TV, and Christiane Nall was here.
Oh, yeah.
And she said you all came off stage, there was like a little nun's room.
Oh, we did. We had our own little nuns quarters where we were all texting and yeah, because we couldn't go back to our dressing room, so we all just had our little cubicles.
Little convent.
We had our little convent, and then, you know, the Nazis had theirs, and everybody had their little convent.
But you said your wimples had to be redone because no one could hear anything or something, like in rehearsal?
Yeah, the wimples, and also those things are heavy. I had to have, like, neck work done afterwards, because, you know, that's all right. I'm fine.
Is there a dream role you would like to tackle?
A role where I get 7 hours of sleep. No, I don't know. I mean, there's always more Shakespeare I want to do. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Shakespeare in the Park in the public doing that.
Fun.
What was that whole experience like?
That was like being at Disneyland. It was amazing. Doing Shakespeare at Disneyland. It was another, I mean, I've been so lucky. I mean, maybe these stories are boring because I was like, it was amazing, it was brilliant, we had fun. But I've been very lucky with the theatrical experiences I've had. I've been very blessed. I'm very grateful. See, if there's a dream role, maybe I'd like to do Lady M one day. I've got anger I'd love to channel with that role.
So my
I got very excited, like, ooh.
My final two questions, what are you the proudest of in your life?
My children. Those girls.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of them. I'm proud of who my daughter, Zoe, who she is. She astounds me every day, and I just think I'm the luckiest mom in the world, and even watching her with her little baby sister, that's the thing I'm proudest of.
What is the best bit of advice that you have been given, either personally or professionally, that you live by?
There wasn't actual words. Well, maybe there were, but it was watching Zoe Caldwell in action, backstage, and seeing what a consummate professional she was, how dedicated she was to her art, how dedicated she was to her children and her husband, how dedicated she was to everybody within the theatrical experience, from the guy who ran the stage door, to the carpenters, to the ushers, to the box office workers. And I learned that nobody is better than you. You're not better than anybody, and nobody is better than you, and it takes a village. And so I learned, I learned respect, and that you must respect everybody around you, in life anyway, but certainly on stage as well.
Well, I want to thank you for an amazing hour that flew by very fast. Yes.
Flew by fast. Yay!
Taking out of your busy schedule, being a brand new mom. Congratulations on the beautiful work in Lady Day and everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, Audra McDonald.
Thank you.